thank you so much for joining me today, Terry. How are you? Like, we're literally a week away from you being down here playing shows for the first time, and geez, I don't even know how long anymore. It was a big day out.
Yeah, it's like almost like 20 years or
Oh
some shit.
no, oh no, that's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, for us, it's just there's no real reason I could give that, why it's taken us so long, but here we are and we're excited to come.
It's a great time too because you come in with Drowning Pool as well. It's such an early 2000s kind of
Yeah.
smack in the face. Like, how
Yeah.
excited are you guys to tour with them? I spoke to CJ
Yeah.
recently, and he said he seems pumped.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he mentioned when you talked to him, that when we were here for Big Day Out back, what, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
they were on that as well.
No, he didn't.
So we were going around together on that, and we actually were hanging out and partying, and that's when Dave was still alive back in the day, and man, we sure had a good time together. We kind of bonded on that trip.
Yeah.
And we've always bumped into each other at whatever kind of community functions, rock community functions, whether it's a festival or the NAM show or whatever the
Yeah.
hell. We always, yeah, we play together here and there, you know what I mean? But the last time we really like kind of went around together was in Australia like 20 years ago. So it seems pretty natural and kind of full circle in a weird way. And
Yeah.
and we've always really liked those guys. We get on real good with those guys. We got a lot of experience and friendly times with them.
And does having someone like Drowning Pool on the bill kind of go, you look at the set list and go, oh, we better chuck in like Wish, some of the heavier songs. Is that kind
Uh,
of yeah?
well, you know what? It's funny because we've always kind of like prided ourselves on our ability to be able to straddle that kind of
Yeah.
genre toss up. We can lighten the set and play, like a pop festival, or we can heavy the set and play, a
Yeah.
hard rock festival, which is cool. It's kind of been always been one of our tricks that we could do. Uh, um, and you know what, Drowning Pool is like. I feel like those guys and us, it's so we're both such like kind of nostalgia bands,
Yeah.
that I think us doing our own thing, each of us, is really just symbolic in a way, and it kind of makes it cool. Like there's not really that pressure of whether we need to beef up the set or whatever, and to be honest, like both of us like have had records out for, like our first records
Mm.
came out so long ago, and all these people grew up on them and whatnot, you know what I mean? So um and the fact that we haven't been there in so long, I think some people might be in for some really cool, like we can like keep the whole set, like not just Whisper or Wish, like we keep the whole set like kind of more anthology heavy, say.
Yeah.
But we're and the set we've been playing is, but it's, we've been getting a lot of the new record in there and a bunch of stuff off Truant, etc.
Yeah.
So, but I think just having all those anthology songs in there, that I know that song was really special in Australia for a lot of people back in the day. So you know what I mean. So I
Yeah.
think that in short, I guess, or in long, I feel like we can both do our own thing, and there's no pressure for anything like that.
And I think the fans down here, because it has been so long since both of you have been down, not as long for Drowning Pool, but especially with Drowning Pool with Ryan, I think that hasn't happened for almost 20 years itself. Like it's getting that long.
Yeah,
But for you guys to come down and do your own thing, that's kind of what we want to hear. And the new stuff. Speaking of the
exactly.
new album as well, man, I was thrilled with that. Wow, you came out with banger after banger on that album. Well
Wow,
done.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah. No, that
Thanks.
was one of my favorite albums of last year. I still have it on
Oh,
constant repeat. Like awesome.
oh, that's great. That's so cool of you to say that. Like I can't like, it's hard for me to express like how proud of that record was
Mm,
and how important in a lot of ways it was for us. So the fact that it's connecting or has connected or will connect in the future is just like,
yeah.
that's what it's all about, right? And those songs were all like, most of them were like pandemic babies, you know what I
Mm,
mean? So like
yeah.
it's just like some duress, feelings going on, other things going on in people's lives, and getting sober, getting divorced, having kids, like
Yeah.
positive stuff too. Just so much shit happening. It became a bit of a hard restart for like a hard start for us, like a restart, like
Yeah.
a reboot or whatever. And so when we really jumped on those songs and the demos that we had, um, we were pretty passionate about it. So
Yeah.
so yeah, so we're just real proud. We love the record, and we're stoked to hear when people connect to it.
And so you should, man. Like, and it shows through the music too. Last Dance in particular, that's got to be the favorite of mine on that record as well. It's just the
Cheers.
emotion in it, just the way everything, and I like the pacing of the album too. Every time that it feels like a song's getting a bit hard, softer or a bit more serious, like Wrong Things, you kind of turn it around. You got like your So Cold and your Fade coming in and picking up the energy, so it's bouncing all off the wall to an extent.
Yeah. There's a lot of texture to the record.
Yeah, and when writing that, you said through the pandemic and everything, and I guess it only coming out last year, was it a bit of a long process to get that recorded, or was it just kind of like the natural state when, everyone and their dog started touring as soon as, the pandemic was over and it was like, oh, maybe we should wait a year or so and kind of
Yeah,
jump on then?
we didn't start touring right away. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like we kind of maybe continued to take our like typical like festivals, and
Mm,
our typical share of like festivals and like what we call like weekend warrior gigs and shit like that. Stuff to just like to work through the
yeah.
year or whatever. But when the pandemic was over, I think we hunkered down more on the record, and once we did, we really did actually.
Yeah.
So it kind of moved pretty fast. We had 4 songs done before. That was how, because we started out, we had just done a record deal with Megaforce,
Mm,
and we were writing with a friend of ours, and we did 3 songs, 3 originals. What was it? It was Wrong Things, What Am I Doing?
yep.
And what was the other one? Um, well, there was the Wham cover.
Oh, yep, 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 yep.
And anyways, these songs that with this handful of songs, we'll say, we recorded before the pandemic, and we had them all like mixed and everything, like
Wow.
ready to go. Yeah, and because they were going to be kind of like the EP before the record, so we got front loaded on those. But then the pandemic hit, and then basically, um, like I said, we went through that whole process of that pandemic, and when it was time to like towards the end, we start like sharing emails, ideas,
Mm,
demos, whatever. And like, I'll send something to Dryden and he'll throw down his idea on it. And eventually you do enough of that to where you start to get excited because you're like,
yeah.
oh, this sounds really cool. Like, all right, this is progress. And then from that point on, like we actually banged it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did it all ourselves. We didn't go. We did it at our drummer's home studio,
Oh, wow.
which is like our home base where we rehearse and everything, where our basement is, and we pretty much we produced pretty much the whole record. There's like those songs before the pandemic were co-written and co-produced with a
Yep.
friend of ours, S.J. Jones. Um, but the whole rest of the record was pretty much produced by us, and we banged it out. We sent it to this mixer named Lucas D'Angelo in Paris, France, that
Yep.
we just think he's a genius. We just think he just does the greatest mixes, and we sent it to him, and got it out
Yeah.
basically.
And here we are
Made it
now.
made a few videos, and yeah, it was cool. It was cool after a long time. We tend to take such, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, we tend
Yeah.
to take these big gaps between records. So every time we get into a process of actually doing a record, we're kind of like, well, we should do this more often.
It's one of those things. It's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
important thing is
We
it's
don't
out.
want to burn everyone out.
That's it. That's it. You got to do it that way. But mate, I got to say, because you mentioned music videos, and I've seen the music video a few times now, and I'm still trying to understand what's going on in the Last Dance music video. Because you got the mariachi band there, the random face paint coming on, you got the 2 kids dancing. What's going on in that video, mate?
No, we're just kind of having fun. We just thought it would be fun to like to just jam with the local mariachi band
Yeah.
and have some kids dancing around. And I don't know, there's there was a very fast treatment and done
Yeah.
very like on the cuff or off the cuff. What would you say, off the cuff?
Yeah. Off the cuff.
um
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's just it was just so funny and goofy. We just rolled with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes videos don't make sense.
And that's the best thing too, because if the video didn't have a point and you're trying to make sense of it, I think that's the best part. Like, what's the meaning behind this? I'm not understanding what's going on.
It's
And you feel
kind of
like, yeah,
it's kind of got that what the fuck factor.
yeah,
Like
it really does.
you're like, wait, what? Let me rewind this.
I feel I
I
almost
better
felt
watch that again.
yeah, yeah. It almost feels like you hired a mariachi band for a birthday party and you're like, well, we paid them. We've got it for another 3 hours. Jump in the video,
Basically.
boys.
But imagine when they showed up. We tried to explain to them. We some of us speak Spanish better than others, but we tried to explain to them the best we could what we were going to hire them for.
Yeah.
And they came. They came, and when they were like actually like in the process of doing it, I think they were all pretty tripped out. Yeah, they were like tripping, man. They were just like, okay, well, here we go.
Well, it looked like they were having a fun time. I've got to say, that's the one thing about the music video. Everyone just looks like they're having a fun time in this
We
whole
did have
random
fun,
different
yeah.
worlds. Yeah, no, I like
We
it.
did have fun,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I think that's one thing about your music videos, going back to just Smooth Criminal and movies back in the day, because you had the two music videos for movies as well. Because you had I think it was just the
We had
backstage
like
one.
4 videos
Yeah,
for
yeah.
movies, but
And then you had Mr. Miyagi come in on one of them as
yeah,
well. And
no.
how was that
Hmm.
experience as a young band, having like such an iconic 80s figure jump in your music video?
Mr. Miyagi, Pat Morita, he was so cool.
Yeah.
Just hanging out with him on the set was just awesome. He was like wanted to smoke weed and he was like hitting on all our girlfriends and shit and just hanging out at like craft services and catering and just making small talk and it was funny because he kind of has this very like kind of subdued like chill persona,
Uh,
like he is very actual, very Miyagi-san in person, like as a person. I mean, he doesn't talk with that accent like
yeah.
that, but it's funny because he sounds like a normal dude. Like you're so used to hearing him like kind of ape this like Japanese broken English thing,
Yeah.
and and then you hang with him and he's just all, "Oh, hey, how are you? I'm Pat." Like who's got the weed? Who's got the pot? So, anyways, he was very cool, and like I said, he was very like kind of just chill and laid back. But then when they said "Action Boy," he like sprung into like
Yeah, well,
like
you made
into
him run down that
into
whole ramp.
effect. Yeah, he did it no problem, and he dove onto the little mat, like
Yeah.
the little stunt mat or whatever. And man, he was just great. He was awesome. It was a total trip because we grew up with Happy Days and
Yeah.
Karate Kid and all that shit. So obviously it's totally crazy, but it was totally cool. He was
Yeah.
a good sport and he did a great job for us and we'll always be down. We'll always be Pat's boys.
Yeah. No, it's cool, man. And you can tell, like I said, it's one of those things. You watch all your music videos, you can tell there's just a certain level of fun, which not every band likes doing music videos, man.
Yeah,
So
and some hit and some miss.
yeah,
Believe.
yeah. Well, that's just going to happen in the days now. Well, it's crazy now because you are a band that has been around for a long time. Back when getting your music video on MTV was a big thing. Now it's just on YouTube like that, and you got people,
Yeah,
dumb people like me doing silly reactions and pulling faces watching the.
yeah. It's fun. It's a different world for sure.
Yeah, how
You
have you
know.
kind of evolved into that over time? Because like writing music's different. Like you send emails to people now. You can send files. Back in
Yeah,
the day, it wasn't that. Like, how's
yeah.
that helped you
Well,
grow?
we used to get in the room at a point and
Yeah,
hash it out like 4 dudes. Like what do you got? Let's see what we can do. Um, I don't know. It's just there's no real formula.
yeah,
There's no real like fucking like criteria you need to stick to. It's just at least for us, that's what we've learned. We've written songs so many different like songs have happened and we've done songs so many different ways
yeah,
that we're just like whenever You know, like people will ask you like in an interview, like, how do you approach writing a song or whatever? And it's like it could happen just so many different ways.
Mm.
So,
And do you
that
think,
being said, we had to kind of, I mean, we've always been kind of versatile in that way, which I think helped us adapt to, like, say, computers becoming more of the standard
mm,
as opposed to like the tape thing, and then, online becoming something as opposed to like, waiting for your videos to come on like MTV
yeah,
or VH1, and all of a sudden they were on demand, and you know what I mean. So we went through the whole thing, like kind of
yeah,
we were like one of the last bands, one of the last rock bands to like really like move um multi-million units,
mm.
like and so we always like joked and said we were the last of the platinum babies. But in a way, we kind of
You
were,
kind of
like,
were.
because bands that were huge were coming out and they weren't moving units, but units were beginning to not matter
Yeah,
at all. You know what I mean? Like physical copy or whatever. Like it was just a trip how the numbers shifted, and the ground shifted, and we were there for the whole thing.
yeah,
So, and here we are, we're still doing it. It's fun to learn. Sometimes it's frustrating,
yeah.
you know. But here we are. I can only be pleased that we're still able to do this
Yeah, exactly.
all these years later.
And to be able to travel the world, a lot of bands that, they're still around these days can't get out of their own country or even, their side of the country. The fact that you can
Yeah,
still
yeah,
get out there, come to Australia, and all these shows are nearly sold out. So if you're watching this right now, they're down next week. You've only got a little bit of time to get tickets, man, especially if you're in Brisbane. If you're debating it, that one's nearly sold out. But to be able to come down here, and these are big venues, like for bands coming down here, these are decent sized venues as well. So there's going to be a
yeah.
level of like proud. Yeah.
I hope it does good. I hope they all do good. I know that most of the shows are getting close, and some
Mm-hmm.
are closer than others. But it's our own damn fault if they don't do well. But I think they're going to do well. We're the ones that didn't come down there and like and bring our music to the people that wanted it. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it now. And like you said, all these years later, it's just to be able to kind of get back to it again. I mean, it's funny, like putting a new record out was so important,
Mm.
and especially one that people seem to like.
Mm.
And it's opened a bunch of new doors for us that were kind of closed for a few years. So we're stoked. We're
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, and I'm keen as well. I'm going to the Sydney show myself, but it's one of those ones when I've talked to people, I've got different people from different walks of life, friends of mine that I've never been to concerts with, or I only go to hardcore shows with this person, or I go to, Iron Maiden with this person. I've got so many people that are just like, hell yeah, Alien Ant Farm. There's no way I'm missing that. So it's weird how all walks of life, different
Yeah,
genre, they're all coming together to kind of
I
experience
love to hear
this.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to hear that. That's that like nostalgia factor, right? Or the
Yeah.
what do they call it? The legacy band thing is like a bunch of people grew up
Yep.
on at least that record. If
Yeah.
not, if they didn't venture on, whatever, like at least Anthology was like kind of like happened when they were like in college or like on a going through Europe backpacking, or
Yeah.
I met my wife to Attitude, and now we have all these kids, and you know what I mean. There's some
Yeah.
connection. There's a lot of room for connection that's actually kind of presented itself over the years of touring, and that's what we do it for, though. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like fulfilling. It's very good to be able to connect, like, and to feel like our music was connecting well enough for us to be able to make it back to Australia 20 years later.
And that's it. And because it has been 20 years later, you're going to have people that were at the big day out have their kids with them at these shows. That's got to be a bit of a trip as well.
We get a lot of that. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool. The generation thing, like the hand me down kind of, or like the kids grew up on their parents playing it. That's just the reality. The parents are playing it all the time. The kids are hearing
Yeah.
it when they're a baby until until they end up going, oh, I love this so much. It's in my collection now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty great. Yeah,
It
I
is.
love. That's one of the, and again, another one of the things that just kind of keeps us going.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the only difference is
The
Dryden won't have
finer,
that little weird reverse mohawk he used to have back in the days. I don't know what that was about.
We've been working on a little surprise thing that we're going to release,
Oh yeah.
and he may or may not have brought it back for that, but we'll
Oh,
see.
oh, exciting! That's going to be a trip. And that haircut never took on. No matter how big you guys were back in the day, I didn't see a lot of kids when I was in high school walking around with that haircut. So he tried, but
No, at the shows maybe we were catching him at the shows, but
yeah,
he was just trying to be like the dudes that we'd see in all the rap videos and the hip hop culture, like
yeah.
kind of like the part shaved into their head, like, and he always wore his hair real like closely cropped. So he was just like, I'm gonna do one of those parts in my head. And then it just like turned into something that the label was into. The label was like, oh, you got to have that part in your hair.
That's one of those things, man. You're damned if you do, because sometimes you do something and they're like, "We like that." You're like, "Shit,
Yeah,
I just got to stick to it
exactly.
now."
Something that we do as a joke, like something we do to make each other laugh, like an inside joke. And then they're like, oh, we like that actually. You need to do that.
Yeah,
But you know what? Funny story. One time we were it was back when we were signed to DreamWorks, who was a lovely label to be signed to. They were just so great. They were one of the best in the end. And but man, they were like we were doing, do you remember a show on MTV called $2 Bill? And it was like,
yeah,
it
yeah,
was always like a filmed live show,
yeah, yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah.
So we're in Denver and we're doing $2 Bill, right? So MTV comes to this theater to film us with all their booms and their jibs and all their gear, their
Yep.
lights, they're like, we can't let you, have, we need white lights on your show for the filming,
Yep.
and we're like, well, that's gonna look lame. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You can't just deal with the colored lights, like
No.
it's a concert, whatever. And so they were all like they were kind of pressing us all label style on a few things, and one of them was the part, like
Yeah.
they were really like adamant about it. So Dryden was feeling defiant, and he took some buzzers, and his hair was maybe like like
Yeah.
a little over an inch, a little over an inch long. And that's why it looked all like he had been wearing it a little longer, and it was like kind of, he had like blonde tips from where it was growing out,
Yeah.
and he was kind of gelling it. He was kind of wearing it like a little more consciously, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they were like, well, can you shave your head and put the part in for because we want you to do it for the video, right?
Yeah.
For the $2 bill. And sorry, I'm trying to get to the end, but
No, no, you're right. Take your time.
but it's just funny because he took some buzzers on the bus, and he basically shaved like from the middle of his head this way, like forward, and left like the back, kind of
Oh,
like a buffon.
so like an old
Like,
kung fu master in all the movies where they've got their head
yeah,
shaved.
like a
Yeah.
Shaolin, or like
Yeah.
maybe like RoboCop with his visor off.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And he showed up at sound check like that. And the label rep girl, like, she was kind of young, and like she literally cried. She was like, anyways, that's the story.
Oh,
And I
but
think we ended up doing it though. We did that $2 bill exists, and I think Dryden has we called it the half off, because it was literally just half his
that's off.
hair. The whole forward half of his head was just gone. Hair was gone.
I love the
So
commitment, and I'm going to search the internet for that. I'm sure if I can't find the video, I'm sure there's photos somewhere. Like once something goes online, it's there forever. So I'm going to have
it's
to look
there.
for that.
Yeah, it's got to be out there somewhere.
Yeah,
It's got to be out there.
it's
It
got to
was on
be.
MTV,
Yeah,
so
well,
it's got to be out there.
yeah. Now it's all just 16 and pregnant and catfish on MTV. How that's changed over
I know,
time.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dryden used to say, I don't know how old your audience is here, if it really matters, really, but he used to ask the crowd all the time, if they ever saw one of our videos on MTV, and he'd
Yeah.
say, "What do they play on MTV now? 16 and butt fucking?" Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Don't worry, mate. I'm
It got a
Australian.
laugh out of the crowd, but
Yeah,
sometimes there's a little like there's a little shorty on the front barricade, one of those kids that the parents brought. They're just like, what's butt fucking?
You'll learn when you're older. No, mate, look at me, the beard. You really think I've got the 15-year-olds watching this channel? We're in our 30s and 40s
Yeah,
on this
right.
channel, brother.
I know, right?
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's been an absolute
I
pleasure.
just got to be careful these days,
You're right. It's all good. And it was Dryden. You were quoting someone. You were quoting someone.
True that.
It's all
True
good.
that.
It's all good. It's Dryden's fault.
Yep.
But, mate, before I let you go, CJ mentioned, he goes, well, and I'm going to give you the heads up because he said he was going to do it. He goes, look out for me jumping on Alien Ant Farm stage because I like to play pranks and I'm going to be pranking those boys. So I'm giving you the heads up.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciated it, but we kind of figured that's CJ.
Yeah.
That's CJ. It's fun. He likes to have fun.
Yeah, well, we all like that fun. We can all have.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
But is there anything you want to say? Like I said, you got that. I know you haven't been here in 20 years. By the way, that flight still sucks. It hasn't gotten any better coming from the States all the way to Australia.
Right.
Yeah. Get ready for that.
Yeah, it's going to be a trip of that, but also the regional flying in between gigs. So we're going to be.
At least in Australia, the flights are all like an hour and a half flight time. So exactly. At least they're short.
Exactly.
So you're not paid.
But is it really? And sometimes it's not really the flight time as much as it's just the fucking dealing with it all.
Yeah.
Checking in the gear, everything.
Well, that's it. You're not paid.
I'm not complaining. Hey, I'm not complaining.
You're not paid to do the shows, mate. You're paid to wait at the airports. The show's the payoff for all the airport time you guys
do. Hell yeah. That's where we're going to blow off all the steam on stage.
Exactly. But is there anything you wanted to say to the Aussie fans before you make your way down here? Cannot wait.
Well, if you haven't got your tickets yet, now's the time to kind of do it because we're going to be there as soon as next week. The show came up really fast.
Yeah.
Or the shows. But yeah, please come see us because it's been a long time and we miss you.
Well, that's perfect. And I've got the link in the comments down below, so no excuse on why you couldn't find where the tickets are. But Terry, it's been a pleasure. I'll be seeing you boys in Sydney. I cannot wait.
All right, great. See you in Sydney.
Cheers, mate. You have a good one.
Yeah, have a great day.
Have a good flight. Bye.
Thanks.